بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم. Hello everybody. My dear students at Port Said University Faculty of Commerce English program, this is our course International Marketing. And this course is for the 4th grade and of course is for the Business Administration Division. In this lecture we are going to complete our topic, the scope and challenge of the international marketing. The learning objective of this lecture. What should you learn? After the current lecture, you will be able to discuss the following point: the strategic orientations of the international marketing. So, what are the strategic orientations of the international marketing? This is what we are going to learn in this lecture. The strategic market orientation. Indeed, there are three major market orientations can be implemented and developed by the international marketer. The first market orientation is domestic market extension orientation. The second one is multi-domestic market orientation. The third one is the global market orientation, and this is the last one, of course. What is the domestic market orientation? According to this orientation, the international operations view it as secondary, not primary. The prime motive is to market excess domestic production, or to market surplus domestic production. The firm's orientation remains basically domestic. According to this approach, there are minimal efforts made to adapt the product or marketing mix to the foreign markets because this is domestic market. Firms with this approach are classified as ethnocentric. The firms, according to this approach, are classified as ethnocentric. What is the meaning of the ethnocentric orientation? The characteristics of the ethnocentric orientation are: home country is superior to others. So according to this approach, the companies assume that the home countries are superior to other countries, sees only similarities in other countries, assumes the products and the practices that already succeed at the home will be successful everywhere as well. This orientation or this approach leads to a standardized or extension approach. So this approach will lead to standardization approach or the extension approach. Examples of the domestic market orientation. There are two examples that we will try to have a look over related to the domestic market orientation. The first example is about Nissan's vehicles. The second one is about cell phone divisions of Toshiba and Sharp. Nissan's vehicles. The earliest exports were cars and trucks that designed for Japan. So, the vehicles were difficult to start in many parts of the United States during the winter months. The chief executive officer of Nissan declared that we tried for a long time to design cars in Japan and show them down the American consumer's throat. That didn't work very well. So that didn't work very well. The second example of the domestic orientation is cell phone divisions of Toshiba Sharp. Cell phone divisions of Toshiba Sharp focus domestic market. Later, they realized that Nokia, Motorola, and Samsung already dominated the key world markets. Chief Executive Officer of Toshiba declared that we were thinking only about Japan. We really missed out chance. So, this approach is risky, and your success, according to this orientation, is not guaranteed. The second market orientation, or the second strategic market orientation, is multi-domestic market orientation. According to this orientation, companies have a strong sense that foreign country markets are vastly different. The market success requires an almost independent program for each country. So they believe that the market success requires an almost independent program for each country. So according to this approach, you will find separate marketing strategies. Subsidiaries operate independently of one another in establishing marketing objectives and plans. The products are adapted for each market. So you will find, of course, control is decentralized. The characteristics of the multi-domestic market orientation. Country by country basic. Advertising campaign are localized. For example, Unilever Rexona brands have 30 different package designs and 48 different formulations over the world. As well, Nestle, Nescafé, Nestle Gao in Vietnam, also example or another example of the domestic market, multi-domestic market orientation. According to this approach, firms with this approach can be classified as polycentric orientation. What is the meaning of polycentric orientation? Polycentric orientation, and you can say datum in Vietnamese language. According to polycentric orientation, each country is unique. Each subsidiary develops its own unique business and marketing strategies, often referred to as multinational. So, multi-domestic market orientation, or polycentric market orientation, or multinational market orientation, or datum orientation. This approach leads to a localized or adaptation approach that assumes products must be adapted to local market conditions. So you will find in this approach localization or adaptation approach. The third strategic market orientation is the global market orientation. The company, according to this approach, guided by global marketing orientation. So you will find that the marketing activity is global, market coverage is the world. And in this approach, firm develops a standardized marketing mix applicable across national boundaries. But you have to notice that markets are still segmented. Each country or region is considered side by side with a variety of other segmentation variables. Fits the regiocentric or geocentric classifications. So there are two approaches in this orientation. The first is regiocentric and the second is geocentric, and we will know these two approaches later. For example, Procter & Gamble pursued global strategy for disposal diapers, but a multi-domestic strategy in Asia market for detergent. The global market orientation, the first approach for this orientation is regiocentric orientation or truncatum or regiocentric orientation. Region is the relevant geographic unit according to this approach. For example, the NAFTA Association or European Union market. Some companies serve markets throughout the world but on a regional basis. For example, General Motors had 4 regions for decades, and European Union is one from them. Global market orientation, also the second approach in this orientation, is geographic orientation. Geographic orientation, entire world is a potential market. It strives for integrated global strategies, also known as a global or transnational company, global company or transnational company. Retains an association with the headquarters country, pursues serving world markets from a single country, or sources globally to focus on select country markets. Leads to a combination of extension and adaptation elements. So, this approach, the geocentric orientation, is the most comprehensive orientation, and this approach will lead to a combination of extension and adaptation elements. Here is an example of the 3 strategic market orientations. And this example is the case of General Motors, GM. And in this example, you will find that one company, specific company like General Motors, utilizes or applies the 3 strategic market orientations at the same time. So, General Motors global brand hierarchy are global brand and international brand and local brand. As the global category, you will find Cadillac, Chevrolet, SAAP, Hummer. So you will find these 4 brands at the global category. At the international category, you will find Opel at Europe, Middle East, and Asia. GMC at North America, Middle East, and Asia. Buick you will find it at North America and Asia. Pontiac at North America, Saturn at North America. At the local category, you will find Vauxhall at the United Kingdom, Holden at Australia, and Daewoo at Korea. So, according to this example, you will find that General Motors applies the 3 strategic market orientations at the same time. At the end of this lecture, hope all is going well with you, and see you soon, and thanks so much.